This video took me so long to make, and it would have been done earlier if I just didn't procrastinate it. But anyway, we are here finally! So hi everyone! Today we will be comparing ITZY's original choreography for Wannabe versus the Just Dance Extreme version. So why am I doing this in the first place? Just 3 reasons basically. Number 1, I love the game Just Dance and I'm passionate about it. Number 2, I love K-pop choreographies and I'm also passionate about it. And number 3, I love dancing and movement in general and studying choreography, studying dance. I love looking into the little details. So ever since Just Dance started putting in like K-pop choreographies or the K-pop songs, I was very happy and I was very excited to study and look where exactly the differences are, because people do say that, oh, it's basically the choreography, it's basically the same choreography. And while I agree, maybe 80 to 90%, I wanted to take it a step further and check what exactly they changed and possibly why they changed it. So first off, let's take into account some things as we go through the differences between each version. Just Dance steps have to be adapted for a variety of reasons. Number 1 is ease of execution for inexperienced players or dancers. Of course, we want everyone to enjoy the game and be able to dance at whatever level they're at, and I believe Just Dance 2023 has actually done a really great job at this. Since you can now filter songs by seated choreographies, no jumping, knee-friendly choreographies, things like that. As someone with friends who love dancing but have chronic pains or old injuries, things like that, I think it's a great step forward to be more inclusive and make the game more accessible for everyone. Of course, everyone has the right to move their bodies and dance, no matter what those bodies look like or whatever skill level they're currently at. Number 2 is space considerations. I believe Just Dance 2023 also has a small space filter, if I'm not mistaken. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that's a great step, since obviously not everybody has a large space to work with whenever they want to play Just Dance. And I think the Just Dance team has taken that into account when they were adapting or creating the choreographies and maps for this game. Number 3 is scoring considerations, or how the game and your controller read movement. I'm not exactly sure what happens or what goes into creating the maps and the choreographies, but I'm thinking, what if the game might have a hard time reading like extremely complex movements from the hands, especially for console players? So they've also had to consider that probably when they were adapting certain choreographies. And lastly, in terms of choreography like this where they adapt from an official or an original version, my theory is that they might need to make some slight changes for copyright reasons. I believe choreography can be copyrighted as long as you note it down somewhere or you take a video of it, which in cases with K-pop, you have your dance practice videos, which I think act as like a reference as well for people who want to learn the choreography or study it. But it also kind of, I mean for me, it also kind of protects the choreography that these dancers have created, whether it's created by the idols or other choreographers. So it's just for their own protection as well. And again, this is all just my theory, like based on what I've seen so far. Please let me know in the comments below if you have like more knowledge about this with copywriting choreography versus like adapting it to Just Dance. And with Just Dance, they're already using like a copyrighted song in the first place. I mean, I'm not super sure what exactly their licensing agreements are, but if they use the full official choreography move per move, it might be either more expensive since they have to maybe get the rights for the choreography as well, or it might be out of bounds with their agreements. Please comment below if you have more information on this. I would really love to know. But moving on, let's keep in mind that the Just Dance versions are basically adaptations of the original. So while there are elements that they borrow or take inspiration from in the official or the original choreography, there will be some detail changes, again due to the several reasons that we've mentioned prior. The dancers or the coaches themselves will also have their own ways of executing a certain move. That's their own like style or artistic interpretation of it. And it's not wrong, just different. And that's how they add their own personal touch to it. What we will be looking at though are more noticeable changes in the choreography, such as formation changes, hand, arm, or leg placements. Are they raising the right versus the left arm? Are they facing front or back? Things like that. And we'll also try and speculate the reasons for each modification. And where possible, I'll also try to demonstrate the differences of the easier steps, so the non-formation based ones. This video will be divided into parts. I've also written down the timestamps in the description, so feel free to skip around to get to the parts that you want to see. Also, very important, everything in this video is mirrored. Just Dance is meant to be played that way, right? Like you're copying your steps, you're looking at yourself in a mirror. Hence, I've also used the mirrored version of ITZY's choreography. All of the clips where I'm demonstrating are also mirrored. So hopefully, to make things a little easier, when I say left or right, I'm referring to your left and right as the viewer. When you copy the movement on screen as if you were looking at yourself dancing in a mirror. Okay, so last few disclaimers. I am not Korean, nor do I know how to speak the language at this time, so I've tried my best to look up the pronunciations of the ITZY members' names to the best of my abilities. Number 2, whenever possible or doable, I will be demonstrating the smaller steps, like the easier to do steps, on screen. Otherwise, I will be pointing them out on the gameplay screen or the dance practice video via red arrows. Number 3, to a degree, these are also my own interpretations as well, or how I see and analyze each move or detail. I'm not a professional dancer at this time, I'm just a student. So there might be some details that I've also missed. If you noticed anything else that I didn't, of course, sound off in the comments below. Number 4, once again, I am repeating this, the video is mirrored. So the dance practice video is mirrored, all of my demo clips are mirrored. Of course, the Just Dance gameplay is also mirrored since, that's how you play the game. So again, when I say left or right, I am referring to your left and right as the viewer. So if you want to see the details or try the details for yourself, try and copy the movements on screen as if you were looking in a mirror. And number 5, there will be a lot of pausing and slowing down in this video because again, we're trying to analyze their movements. So we're not here to listen to the whole song in one go. So, just putting it out there. So with all of that out of the way, let's now move on to the analysis. I hope you enjoy.
Okay, so right from the get-go, there is one very obvious difference already. ITZY has 5 members and therefore 5 dancers. From left to right, we have Yuna, Chaeryeong, Yeji, Ryujin, and Leah. The Just Dance version, meanwhile, has only 3: Rosaria, Rubica, and Eteria. I think that's how you pronounce their names, but anyway. Now, I'm not sure if there are any Just Dance songs with more than 4 coaches. I don't think I've seen any myself. If there are, please let me know in the comments below. And I'm thinking it might be difficult to fit 5 coaches on the gameplay screen anyway. So assuming there aren't any Just Dance songs with more than 4 coaches, I figured they would have wanted to adapt the choreography according to this restriction. They still needed an odd number of dancers below 4, so maybe that's why they have just 3. One more thing to point out with this opening pose. In the original, the 2 dancers in front, Chaeryeong and Ryujin, actually have their back to the audience. Meanwhile, Rosaria and Eteria are facing the audience. Apart from the difference in numbers, I think that's easier for less experienced dancers who want to try out this choreography. Also, it seems difficult to start a Just Dance song with your back to the audience. I don't think I've seen any Just Dance song that starts with your back to the camera or audience. To the side, sure, but you can still see your screen and gameplay that way. You can't if your back is turned. Did you catch that? Let's rewind. Notice how Chaeryeong and Ryujin switch places as Yeji bumps her hands together. In the Just Dance version, Rosaria and Eteria don't do that. They simply do a sort of shoulder roll. Again, same reasons as earlier. It seems easier to just stay in place and do the shoulder roll. Additionally, it might be hard for the person in the middle to see the screen if the other 2 move and block their line of sight, right? Another difference in this part is the way that the center dancers move their hands when you hear the kind of winding up sound. Yeji does a more complicated version of this, while Rubica simplifies this move a little. It's a bit hard to see on screen, so I'll demonstrate it myself. Yeji starts out with the backs of her wrists touching and her hands not crossed. Rubica's hands are crossed, with the right hand in front. For Yeji's movement, I'll try and demonstrate it very slowly here. So the left hand goes in front, the hands kind of pass each other or go in a circle, and your wrists are touching. You end with your right hand in front, palm facing the audience. Meanwhile, Rubica's movements are simpler. You start with your right hand in front, twist and rotate your hands once, your wrists will also still be touching, and you end with your left hand in front with the back of your hand facing the audience. I think they chose to simplify this because, number one, I'm not gonna lie, Yeji's hand movement in the original took me a hot minute to figure out, especially when you're just starting to learn it. And number two, exactly because it is more complicated, I thought that the game might have a hard time registering all of that movement coming from the hands, the right hand especially. The point of that move is to just show a sort of turning motion, like you're winding a clock, while the other dancers around you also turn simultaneously as you do this movement. In my opinion, the Just Dance version still achieves this, even with the simpler hand movement from Rubica. Next, we have this kind of effect achieved through formation in the original. Because there are 5 of them, they can all go behind Yuna and push their arms to the side to achieve this kind of fanned look or this many arms thing going on. In the Just Dance version, they don't go behind the center dancer at all, they simply push their arms out to the side. As with earlier, the original might be more difficult, and this time you risk bumping into each other or stepping on each other's toes literally. If your dancing space doesn't have enough room front to back, that can also be difficult. Which is why I guess in the Just Dance version, Rosaria and Rubica just do the same movement but not go behind Eteria. There's still a visual effect there, just different from the original. Here, you see ITZY popping their left arm first, while the Just Dance coaches pop their right arm first. My theory on this is that it's for the scoring. Since the move is exactly on the beat, and you do hold your controller on the right, for those of us who play with the controller anyway, the game needs to be able to read that and score you. Here, Yuna points with her left hand and Eteria with her right. So same principle as earlier, maybe it's for the scoring. The next differences I'll be pointing out are kind of connected steps. Let's start with ITZY. First, they have their right leg in front, they turn counterclockwise, then they put their left arm down first. For the Just Dance version, it's the complete opposite. The left leg is in front, they turn clockwise, then put their right arm down first. Perhaps they chose to invert this segment in the Just Dance version for the scoring. Their version is moving to the right or involves putting your right arm down first, etc. And again, your right hand is what holds the controller. Here are all of those connected steps together, side by side. This next one is more of a formation or a numbers thing. Yuna, who was the center for that line, moves aside to the right to make way for the next center. There's no such formation change in the Just Dance version. Not sure if you caught that, it's a small detail again, but Chaeryeong just points or wiggles her finger in the same spot. Meanwhile, Eteria actually traces kind of an upward pattern with her right hand. Once again, I think that might be for the scoring. In this part, there are 2 differences that I noticed, so they're also kind of connected steps. The basic step is that the center dancer kind of flicks their hands beside them, then passes their hands kind of diagonally across their torso. There's a slight difference between how Chaeryeong and Eteria do it. Chaeryeong, I believe, flicks her hands thrice, then passes her hands slowly across her torso. For that second step, I think it takes about 2 counts for her to execute the whole thing. Eteria, meanwhile, to me it looks like she flicks her hands just twice. She then passes her hands across her torso in 1 quick count instead of 2. And in case it's a bit hard to see, here's a quick demo between the differences. Last point for the pre-chorus. It's a small formation thing again, so the center for that portion, Cheryang, moves to the left, while Eteria moves to the right. Maybe that was the best option for formation change given their lesser numbers. This one might be a little tricky to spot, so let's walk through it slowly. In the original version, you put your hands out and pose mostly on the off beats, and you do a total of 4 poses or 4 hand changes. Let's watch Yeji for this one. Now for the Just Dance version, let's watch Rubika. So while they still pose on the off beats, the coaches changed their hand positions or poses just twice instead of 4 times. In place of the last 2 changes, they simply face their torso to the left and the right. It might be a bit hard to see, so here's a quick demo again just in case. Maybe the simplification was done for their own style reasons or copyright, or maybe it's also for the scoring. Again, it might be hard for the controller to read so many changes so quickly, I guess. But just like in Yeji's hand movement in the beginning, I think that it's simpler, but still showcases the general idea of the steps. So far, those are the only differences I noticed in the chorus apart from formation changes due to numbers. There's also a move where Rubika starts it with her right foot, while everyone else starts it with the left. I didn't zone in on it too much since I thought it was just a misstep. I'll point it out as we watch. If you see any more differences, of course, sound off in the comments below. Okay, here we can see that in the original, it's only Yeji pulling her right arm. Meanwhile, everyone else, in the Just Dance version as well, is pulling their left. I think this one is more of a formation or a numbers thing. Since ITZY has 5 dancers, they can create this visual effect in the front row. So Yeji has to pull her right. In the Just Dance version, there's only 3, so it would look out of place if only one person pulled their right arm while everyone else pulled their left. Next, we have a small formation change. In ITZY's case, the person in the center, that's Leah, moves forward slowly as she executes the step. In Just Dance, everyone stays in the same line. I think this might be for space considerations. Last point for the refrain. This is kind of similar to the intro. In the original, the dancers on the left and right switch places while Rosaria and Eteria simply do body rolls in their respective directions. Once again, it could be in consideration of the space, or people possibly tripping over each other. The visual effect or impact that they're trying to go for here is people body rolling or moving to either side, which again, I think the Just Dance version is still able to achieve. Everybody teaching me. This one might be a little more visible. ITZY puts their legs together as they put their hands behind them, while the Just Dance coaches keep a wide stance. As a result, there's a slight difference in the next step's execution. ITZY as a whole moves to the right, while the Just Dance coaches stay in place. Here, ITZY all have their right arm up while the Just Dance coaches have their left arm up. I think this one is more for simplification. When you do the previous step where you clap your hands while rolling your hips, your left hand is on top. It's simpler to just lift whatever hand is already on top In this case, it's the left.
Everybody teaching me. 이래라 저래라 모두 한마디씩.
I hope that helped make it a little clearer, but for now, let's continue.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. 내 앞가림은 내가 해. I'ma do my thing.
Watch how Chaeryeong here remains standing upright while she does her own little pose or move, because I believe it's her singing part as well. For the Just Dance coaches, because there is no fourth dancer to stand out, they all do the common step instead.
Just do your thing, 'cause I'm the one and only. 사람들.
This next point is similar to the previous one. Here, Chaeryeong puts her hands in front of Yeji and creates that extra effect or pair of hands. For the Just Dance version, because there is no fourth dancer to do this is not present. Another thing to note here, Ryujin makes a perfect kind of triangle shape with her hands and arms. Her middle finger's tips are touching. Leah on the left also somewhat does this. Her arms are just not extended fully, but I believe her hands are still positioned the same way. Rosaria also has the same arm position. Rubica, meanwhile, has the right hand in front and the left in the back. Her left fingertips are probably touching her right palm. It's a minor detail, but it does change a little bit the shape or angles that you're trying to make.
난 말하기를 좋아해. 남의 인생에 뭔 관심이 많아 왜. 하지만
You'll have to squint a bit to see this next point. ITZY rub their palms pretty aggressively as they prance to their positions,
하지만
but the Just Dance coaches simply pass their hands once through each time.
하지만
I think this might be for the scoring, more specifically how the game registers the movement. As I mentioned with the previous differences, maybe because of the shaking or too much movement from the right hand, it might heck up the reading or something. Additionally, maybe because of how the coaches look, aka they look quite colorful and their skins are pure white in the gameplay screen, the shapes and colors might, I don't know, make it hard to visually distinguish what's happening on screen or what's happening with their hands for the players. So the less aggressive version is more to simplify and make the hands look cleaner, I guess, in the Just Dance version.
신경 좀 꺼줄래. It's none of your business. I do my own business.
Last point for verse 3 is a formation change. The next center in the original version is coming from the left,
I do my own business.
whereas in the Just Dance version, the next center is coming from the right.
I do my own business.
The second chorus is pretty much the same as the first. No notable changes except again for formation, which I'll try and point out on screen. So let's sit back and enjoy the dancing for a little while.
누가 뭐라 해도 난 나야. 난 그냥 내가 되고 싶어. I wanna be me, me, me. 굳이 뭔가 될 필요는 없어. 난 그냥 너일 때 완벽하니까. I wanna be me, me, me.
Alright, here we see that the closest two dancers are facing behind, and as we've established in previous similar points, it's hard to see the screen if you're facing behind, so they chose to keep Rosaria and Eteria facing front.
If you love me or hate me.
I wasn't super sure if I would include it here, but this was a detail I myself didn't notice until it was pointed out to me while I was learning the original choreo. So, I'll include it anyway. In the original, the girls' hands start above their chest, kind of close to the shoulders, then the hands pass below the chest, around the waist, before they bring it down to their knees. In the Just Dance version, the coaches bring the hands from above the chest or the shoulder area down to the knees directly. I think that Yeji demonstrates this the best, so let's watch her in slow motion. And in case you still can't catch the detail, here is me trying to demonstrate the differences between each one. So yeah, something like that. I hope that was somehow helpful in illustrating what I meant. But for now, let's move on. The other difference I wanted to point out was the way that they all stood up from the crouched position. We'll have to rewind and slow this down a bit. So in the original choreography, the girls get up from the center radiating outwards. That is, Ryujin first, followed by Yuna and Chaeryeong closest to her, then Yeji and Leah on the outermost. In the Just Dance version, all three coaches get up at the same time. My personal opinion is that this was done due to the lesser number of dancers for Just Dance. Since ITZY has 5 members, they can easily execute that visual effect of center going outwards because there's a center, then 2 people in the inner and outer portions. Because Just Dance only has 3 dancers, they might not be able to give that same visual effect if they tried that as well. Lastly for this segment, a small detail. The person doing the unique motion is on the right in the original choreo, that would be Ryujin, while in the Just Dance version, this person doing the unique step or motion is on the left, that would be Rubika. Here, you can see that Chaeryeong and Leah have their right arms up and their bodies are facing the right. All of them are facing the right. Meanwhile, Rubika and Eteria have their left arms up. Their bodies are also facing the left. Maybe this change was more for copyright reasons? Here's a quick demo in case you can't see it very well on screen. Actually, for the clip on the right, I wasn't able to make my body fully face to the left, but I hope you get what I mean. Let's move on. Similar to them going up earlier, this time it also applies to them going down. ITZY still does that center going outwards visual effect, but this time for the Just Dance coaches, they go down from right to left. Let's rewind and watch that slowly. Okay, for this next portion, it was a bit tricky for me to find the words to explain while I was writing it, but I'll try my best. So in the last chorus, the line, "I wanna be me, me, me," is sung thrice. With ITZY, Yuna and Chaeryeong do their own unique step in the first 2 times that this line is sung. Both of them are coming from the left side. When Yuna does her own step, the others are also doing something unique or moving across the floor. For Chaeryeong, everyone is facing the back and walking. In the last time that this line is sung, they all just do the swiping across the chest motion together. In the Just Dance version, meanwhile, each coach also does her unique motion every time that this line is sung, but instead of starting from the left like in the original, they start from the right, going to the left. So that's Eteria, Rubika, and Rosaria. When Eteria does her own unique step, Rubika and Rosaria are looking at her while doing the swiping motion. When it's Rubika's turn, Rosaria and Eteria are facing the back and walking as well, similar to what happens during Chaeryeong's turn in the original. Lastly, when Rosaria does her unique step, Rubika and Eteria are also looking at her while doing the swiping motion. Altogether, here's the visual effect that Just Dance was going for versus ITZY's. A possible reason why I think they did this, it's to adapt the choreography to 3 people. ITZY's second formation change, which is when Yuna does her unique step, I think doesn't work so well with just 3 dancers. So instead of having that, they opted to give each one of the 3 coaches their own spotlight moment from right to left. Before we move on, let's backtrack a little bit. Here, we see that there's a difference between the arms raised and where their bodies are facing. So for ITZY, it's the left arm up with the body facing the right. For Just Dance, it's the opposite. Right arm up, body facing left. When I was learning both, I actually found the original easier for this bit because coming from the previous step, you just have to put your foot down as you raise your left arm. You put your foot down on the word wanna. In the Just Dance version, meanwhile, again coming from the previous step, you have to change feet so that your body will face the left with your right arm raised. You change feet on the lyrics just wanna. If that sounds a bit confusing, here's a side-by-side demo to hopefully show you what I mean. And for this segment, I think they changed it for scoring reasons. I mean, you do raise your right arm in the Just Dance version after all. Alright, we've come to the ending and the last difference. ITZY has this iconic crown pose in a lot of their choreographies. Naturally, they would include this in the Just Dance version as well. That said, there are some differences with how they get to the crown pose. Partially, I think, due to the difference in numbers again, partially maybe due to copyright reasons, or maybe for artistic interpretation as well. Let me know what you think. Before they start to do the crown pose, each ITZY member is doing their own little move or pose. In the Just Dance version, the coaches simply repeat the swiping across the chest step. I think they did that so it looks more uniform maybe, or for the scoring. Not sure. Let's slow it down and assign 3 counts, like so. On count 1, Lia and Yeji move closer into formation, while Chaeryeong and Yuna do their own poses. Count 2, Lia, Yeji, and Ryujin kneel, while Chaeryeong and Yuna move closer into formation. It is only on count 3 when they raise their arms to finish with the crown pose, and they nod up as they raise their arms. In the Just Dance version, meanwhile, on count 1, they swipe the right hand across the chest. Count 2, they're already raising their arms to do the crown pose. And on count 3, they have already done the pose and simply nod their heads up. So in short, the Just Dance version starts and ends the crown pose earlier than the original version. Here's a side-by-side to demonstrate how the counts differ. I'm doing Ryujin and Rubika's parts here, by the way. For these demo clips though, I think I mistimed my nods for both versions. It seems that the nod for the original version is supposed to come first by like a fraction of a second before the Just Dance version's nod. My bad, I'm sorry. But anyway, let's move on. So as I mentioned, I think these changes were made due to the differences in numbers, maybe copyright reasons, and artistic interpretation as well. For me, modifying it the way that they did accommodates their lesser numbers while still showcasing the iconic crown pose at the end.
And there you have it. That was so long. It's probably the longest video I've ever made so far. But I hope you enjoyed it and I hope that you learned something from it. I'm thinking of turning this into a series since Wannabe is definitely not the only K-pop song in the Just Dance library with an extreme choreography that's very similar, like 80 to 90% similar to its original choreography. If we do continue this though, I'll be focusing on songs where the extreme choreography is, as I said, 80 to 90% similar to the original, just so that we have a more equal comparison. I wouldn't compare, say, the regular version of Kill This Love to the original Blackpink Kill This Love choreography, since it's not really a fair comparison. So maybe songs like More, Psycho, I believe Feel Special is also very similar, songs like that. Let me know in the comments down below which song you'd like me to compare next. And if you do want to see more of this series, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click the bell icon so you'll be notified whenever I post any new Just Dance, dance cover, K-pop, or any other gaming related content. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!